Yesterday in California, the first of dozens of caskets were put beneath the surface of the earth. They are the remains of some of those who died at the Jonestown commune in Guyana. It is part of the tragic story that even to now is not over.
Been kept locked up by the temple leaders to make it difficult for anyone to leave the country along the premises. Jewelry, social security checks. A trunk was filled with performed today on the body of the founder of the People's Temple.
For dawn, a van carrying 50 victims arrived at Evergreen Cemetery. Inside, small pine boxes containing 45-inch steel caskets to be placed in cement crypts. These are the bodies of unidentified children. In place of names, just numbers on the boxes.
James Warren Jones was born on May 13, 1931, in Crete, Indiana, during the Great Depression. His childhood was far from ordinary, growing up in a turbulent household with an absent alcoholic father and a mother who worked tirelessly to support the family. Feeling like an outsider, young Jim found solace in religion, fascinated by preachers who wielded power over congregations with fiery sermons and dramatic healing ceremonies. Jones became obsessed with faith and the supernatural, often conducting funerals for small animals and preaching to other children. This early exposure to religious performance would shape his future as a leader. But Jim's interest in religion wasn't just about faith, it was about control.
You've told me nothing about your condition.
No, I haven't. In the 1950s, Jones aligned himself with progressive social causes, particularly racial integration. At a time when segregation was still the norm, Jones took advantage and opened his church, the People's Temple, in Indianapolis, welcoming people of all races. He preached a message of equality, attracting a diverse and loyal following. He became known as a charismatic leader, blending social activism with Pentecostal-style faith healing. But behind the scenes, his power was growing, and so was his paranoia. Jones used deception to convince followers of his divine abilities, faking healings and even staging miraculous events. He saw himself as the Messiah, the only one capable of saving his people from a corrupt world. As scrutiny from the media and the authorities increased, Jones expanded the People's Temple into California in the late 1960s, establishing a presence in Redwood Valley and then San Francisco. As his influence grew, drawing in politicians and activists, but so did the accusations of abuse and manipulation. Fearing exposure, Jones began planning his escape, a promised utopia free from persecution.
Amidst all the increasing scrutiny and pressure Jones faced in the United States, his vision of a utopian society began to unravel, prompting him to make a radical decision to relocate his followers to a remote settlement. In 1974, Jones acquired land in the dense jungles of Guyana. He envisioned a sanctuary where his followers could escape the perceived threats of this hostile world in America. He painted a vivid picture of a promised land, free from oppression, a place where his ideals could flourish. The call to relocate resonated deeply with many in the People's Temple. Disenchanted with the societal injustices in America, his thousands of followers saw this as an opportunity for a fresh start. Families began to pack their belongings, and driven by their faith in Jones, they moved all their assets and all of their family to Jonestown. By early 1977, the first settlers arrived, and they quickly set about building their new community. Jones offered it as a revolutionary experiment in socialism, promising equality, abundance of resources, and freedom from racial and economic discrimination. In those early days, hope filled the air. The settlers constructed homes, farms, and community facilities, believing they were part of something extraordinary. But, as the months passed, the reality of life in Jonestown began to diverge from the idyllic version Jones had sold. As the community took shape, so too did Jones' grip on power. Isolation became a tool of control, with the jungle serving as a barrier between the settlers and the outside world. Those who questioned Jones faced harsh repercussions, and dissent was met with intimidation and violence. Fueled by growing paranoia, Jones began to preach about the outside world as a dangerous enemy. He instilled fears in his followers, convincing them that they were under constant threat from those who wished to destroy their community. primarily the CIA and other United States government agencies. By late 1978, the situation escalated drastically. Concerns from relatives and former members in the U.S. culminated in a congressional visit led by Representative Leo Ryan. As tensions rose, it became clear that the sanctuary Jones has promised was rapidly becoming a prison. On November 17, 1978, Leo Ryan arrived in Jonestown. At first, the atmosphere was cordial, with some members expressing their contentment. Yet, hidden tensions simmered beneath the surface, as others quietly sought a way out, and begged and pleaded with Leo Ryan to take them home. As Ryan prepared to leave with the defectors the following day, Jones faced the looming threat of the exposure. The community's fate hung in balance, and in a moment of desperation, a tragic decision was made that would seal their fate. As Ryan and the defectors attempted to escape, they were ambushed by Jones' armed guard. The attack left 5 dead, including Ryan, marking the beginning of the end of Jonestown. In the wake of the violence, Jim Jones orchestrated one final act of control, leading to a catastrophic conclusion that would forever change the narrative of Jonestown. Jones decided that as a final act of solidarity and defiance, he and his followers would partake in what he called a revolutionary suicide, a way to protest against oppression and ensure their liberation. As families and children stood together, Jones offered a cyanide-laced drink, presenting it as a pathway to peace. Many, believing in his vision and fearful of the outside world, complied immediately. The mass ritual culminated in a heartbreaking loss of life, leaving behind a powerful lesson about the dangers of manipulation and the fragility of faith. Approximately 918 people died as a result of Jones's actions. More than 200 of them were children, and a large majority were elderly. There are many reports that those who were defiant of Jones were injected directly with cyanide, and it is safe to assume that there were countless others who, out of fear and desperation, ingested it anyway. The tragic events at Jonestown mark a turning point in public perception of cults and new religious movements. In the aftermath of the mass suicide, widespread media coverage highlighted the dangers of manipulation, psychological control, and the vulnerability of individuals drawn into such groups.